Hi cousins, and welcome to another session of Honest Talk About Women, where you'll learn tips, tricks and strategies on how to navigate the minefields of dating and relationships. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel and comment in the comments section. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have a story you want to share with viewers, you can contact me on my email address listed below. Today's story is from a viewer which I can relate to. I've had a similar experience to this, so let's get underway. My sister, 42, thinks I'm, a 38 male, being greedy, charged my nephew to rent to live with me because I am doing well financially. My nephew, who was 18 at the time and is now 19, moved in with me and my wife last February. He was having mental health problems and my sister and brother-in-law couldn't handle him and begged me to take him in, so I did. My nephew couldn't find a job, so for the first 4 months we paid all expenses. When I asked my sister and her husband for help, my sister started screaming at me saying my nephew needs to find a job and that it's not her responsibility to pay his expenses anymore. My sister has severe mental problems, who is extremely toxic. My nephew has been doing great with us since last year. He's almost done upgrading high school and getting his diploma. My mum and I got him set up with funding, which has helped him with expenses since February. I got him into driving school and he'll be able to take a driving test next month. I got him into therapy and his mental health has improved substantially. Everyone in the family has seen the positive changes except for my sister and her husband, who are demanding that he returns back home to live with them. It seems they don't like how well he's doing in my care, and it makes them feel bad parents. I told my nephew he can stay with us, but when he's done at school, we expect him to get a job and pay US $500 a month, which will be inclusive of everything, including food. We currently spend around $400 a month on food for him, so the extra cost would be for the utilities and adding him to our car insurance. I let him drive my car as I work from home. We think this is a fair deal, but unfortunately his toxic parents are telling him that we are greedy and exploiting him and that he needs to return back to them. What do you think? So, firstly, I think you've got a big heart taking someone into your house. It's always a big ask, taking someone into your house, but he's your nephew and you're helping out family. So, well done on that front. It's not easy. So I assume that you've got no other kids and it's just you and your wife and you're taking them in. If you had other kids, it can or it may be disruptive, but you don't have that issue. One thing you've got to be mindful of, it doesn't affect the relationship with you and your wife. That comes first. He's come in and he's got to come into your frame. So from what I've heard, it's not affecting the relationship between you and your wife and things are going pretty smoothly. Secondly, your home is your castle. So anyone that does come into your house has to come in under your frame. That means they're going to do things your way, the way you do things in your house. So at the start, it's always good to have an honest talk with someone and be quite upfront with them. So it's a bit like getting a tradesman over to your place to do some plumbing work. They need to perhaps change the kitchen taps and you establish an upfront fixed cost of, say, $500. So with no inflation. So you agree at a fixed price and there's no inflation and the invoice will be $500 for the job. They come over, do the job, they issue the invoice, you pay the invoice. So there's no misunderstanding. Everything's done up front. And the same as with having your nephew come and stay with you. You need to be totally upfront with them at the start about your expectations, how you do things in the house, and how things are going to go going forward. And it's all within your frame. You're not accommodating him. He's going to be working in with your frame. So it sounds like you've had him over for 4 months. He's been living rent-free, no expenses, and you've done really well getting him on the straight and narrow. And he appears now to be in a good headspace to get a job. And we'll have to start paying rent. And at $500 a month, $6,000 US a year is cheap. If from in a big city, it's well in excess of 15,000 plus a year. So this is a great deal. And but unfortunately, young kids don't understand how good a deal it is until they actually move out and start incurring expenses themselves to see what a great ticket they were on before. But he'll need to work that out as a young man. You've only can give him what you can give, and giving him an option, and it's a great option to stay with you and get and start moving forward. I had a similar experience with my first wife. She had a young cousin who was doing heavy drugs, and my wife told me he's coming to stay with us. And me being the accommodating husband, the beta husband, said, yeah, that's fine. And he came over, and we had two young girls at the time, 5 and 7, and it wasn't conducive having him in the house with those young kids around, being on heavy drugs. He was a good young, intelligent man. I had a construction business at the time. I got him out onto the construction site. He was a great worker, but unfortunately, he was addicted to his drugs. And I said to my wife, look, we're not professional rehabilitation agents. He needs to go into a drug rehab centre and to sort out his issues, and he did. He eventually went in there, and it took some time, but he got on the straight and narrow. But similar circumstances to yourself. His parents were at breaking point, having him in the house, and they offloaded the problem to us, and we took it on. But he was too far gone on the drug front, and he needed help. Just a word on that, guys. Drugs, don't do it. It fries your brain. It may be cool, but there's plenty of studies out there that show that drugs ruin your brain. In relation to my wife's cousin, who's a bright young guy, very bright at school, but he was doing hardcore drugs, and his brain basically got fried. And he's not nowhere near what he was before in terms of intelligence. His brain has just been fried. So don't do drugs. Just keep on the straight and narrow. But getting back to your situation, I applaud you. You're doing a fantastic job with him, and keep up the good work. Now, with young kids, they need every help they can get. Big cities are really expensive, and the dynamics of the economy have changed substantially. So 30 years ago, a average salary of 50,000, you could buy a house for 150,000. But now that ratio has gone up to about 8 times. So if you're earning 50,000 now, you need 400,000. That's US to buy a house, and that's really expensive. So kids these days are earning a lot less than what their grandparents earned, and their purchasing power of buying a house is beyond the reach of most kids. So they need every help they can get, and it's due to economics and bad government policy. Quantitative easing during the GFC and during COVID really inflated asset prices, but I won't go down the economics track here. This is not about economics. This is about relationships. So we'll pass on that. Should he decide to go to university, you'd need to work out how he contributes. If he's doing a lightweight degree where there's plenty of hours, free time, he needs to get a job and contribute. If he's doing a hardcore degree like engineering or medicine, we work really long hours at university, then you may not have time for a part-time job, and you'd have to pass on that, and he'd need to contribute in other ways, maybe make a meal once a week or do some work around the house, maintenance around the house. And if you're feeling really generous, because I think you've got a big heart, you could take his $500 a month and put it into a share account under his name and just index it to the S&P 500. So if you're putting in, say, $6,000 a year, you get $6,000 off him a year for 5 years. That $6,000 indexed to the S&P 500, which shows an average return of about roughly 9% per year. Some years it's higher than 9%, some years it's significantly lower than 9%, but on average, after World War II, it's been 9%. So if you put that away in an indexed fund on the S&P after 5 years of taking in, say, $6,000 a year, that should turn into $40,000, and that's a really nice, tidy little bit of deposit. Should he want to get a bit of dirt himself and get into his own house? So obviously, I wouldn't tell him up front on that. I'd keep that behind his back if you're going to be super generous, and just see the magic of the market doing its compounding. So well done helping out your nephew. It's great to see that, and I hope he comes around to reality and sees what a great option he's on in your house, and going back to his parents will be very toxic for him. So new beginnings for him, and hopefully he'll be on the straight and narrow, staying in your house. So that's it for today, guys. Should you have a story you want to share with viewers, please email me on my email address listed below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button, and also comment in the comments section. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.